All right, so we are going to be working with area of parallelograms today. So a parallelogram is very similar to a rectangle, but it's not necessarily the same because it's slanted. So when we have the area of a parallelogram, we will notice on our reference sheet that the area formula is A equals BH. Remember, if variables are touching, that means that they are multiplying. So that's exactly what you do here. You'd find the B, which stands for base, and the H, which stands for height, and you would multiply those two numbers together to find your area. With a parallelogram, in order to find the height of a parallelogram, you need to find the line that forms a right angle. So that's what we're going to put in this line right here. So a right angle. That right angle is this little square that comes down to make like a perfect corner of a paper. It's a 90-degree angle. So when we have this, we have the height, which forms the right angle, with the piece that is our base. The base always tends to be on the bottom, but it can be on the top as well. So let's look at some of our examples over here. It tells us to find the area of each parallelogram. If you notice in our formula for area of a parallelogram, it's A equals BH, or base times height. We only need two values in order to find the area, and this example gives us 3. So the first thing I need to find is the base, and that is going to be along the bottom. And then this one I'm going to label B. And then the height. So again, that height is going to be brought to us by that little square that tells us that it is a right angle. So that means that the 3.2 is actually going to be our height. This other piece over here is useless. They are trying to get you to use that to mess you up. They're giving you that information because it goes along the slanted side, and we can't use a slanted side's information. So let's go ahead and try and solve this one. I'm going to rewrite my formula so I know exactly which one I'm working with. So base times height. I'm going to take the base 5 and plug it in for B, and I'm going to take the 3.2 for height and plug it in for H. So I'm going to rewrite my entire equation. A equals 5 times 3.2. When I multiply this out, I find that my area is equal to 16.0. The reason why there's a decimal in there is because there's one number behind the decimal in the question, so the answer must have one number behind the decimal in the answer. We need to make sure that we write this using the length description that they gave us, which is meters. And because we found the area is actually measured as squared. The reason why is because we took 2 of them and multiplied it together. So we took 2 values. So we would write it with a little exponent of 2 behind the measurement. So the area would equal 16 meters squared. Let's take a look at this, this next one, and it looks a little different, but it also gives us useless information. So on this one, we are given 3.5 at the bottom, 7.5 on the side, and 7 inches on the other side. I know that my base is going to be the one that is not slanted. So this is my base, 3.5. The height here that they're trying to trick you with, you're supposed to choose the one that has the right angle. That right angle tells you every single time that that is the correct number for your height. I'm going to go ahead and rewrite the equation. So it's A equals B times H. And I'm going to plug in 3.5 for the base and 7 for the height. So I'm going to rewrite my entire equation, including the A equals. A equals 3.5 times 7. When I multiply this out, I find that my answer is 24.5. I know that I'm going to have one number behind my decimal because I had one in my question. Remember to write this with the measurement that they're talking about. So this is inches. And since we are finding the area, it's going to be with the exponent of 2. So the area for this parallelogram is 24.5 inches squared. This next section is going to bring us to just not having the picture, but giving us the information that we need in order to solve these pieces. Oops. So we're going to scroll on down. It says, find the missing measurement of the parallelogram. Plug in the given values and solve for the missing variable. So, in the first one, we are given the base and we are given the height. We are looking for the area. So this is just what we did before, but instead of looking at a picture, it gives us the terms specifically. So, the area formula again is A equals B times H. So base times height. So I'm going to replace the B with 8 and H with 3.1. A equals 8 times 3.1. When I multiply this out, I'm just going to do it over to the side, I find that my area is 24.8. Again, there was one number behind the decimal in the question, so there must be one number behind the decimal in the answer. The measurement that they were using was feet, so we're going to make sure that we note that this is feet. And because it was the area, we multiplied two sets of feet together. We're going to put this squared. So the answer for this example is area equals 24.8 feet squared. This next example is a little different, and that is because we are looking for the base. That is the missing value. It gives us the height and it gives us the area. So this is going to go back to our equation solving skills. For this one, I'm going to rewrite the equation again, or the formula, I'm sorry. Area equals base times height. So I'm going to plug in 18 for the height and 360 for the area. So 360 equals base times the height is 18. Going back to our knowledge of solving equations, we know that we need to get the variable or the letter by itself. In order to do that, we'd have to do the inverse or the opposite of the operation that's happening in the equation. So right now it's multiplying. In order to get rid of that or to cancel it, we would have to divide by 18 on both sides. Those two 18s cancel, and I would set up long division to solve 360 divided by 18. And when I do this, I would find that B, my base, is 20. This measurement will be measured in feet because the area already had the feet squared. We took away one of those feet, we were finding it, so that's why this one doesn't have a square, it's just a length. So up here in this base section, you're going to write 20 feet. If I wanted to go ahead and double check this, I would multiply the base that I found, 20, by 18 to make sure that that gave me 360, which it does. This last example is a word problem, and this is more so how you're going to see them in a testing environment. And you need to find what is important and what is not important. Remember, we are mathematicians, not therapists. So it says a parking lot space is in the shape of a parallelogram. Oops. That tells us what formula to use. It has a base length of 6.5 feet. So there's a key word, is that word base, and the number right behind it, 6.5 feet. That's very important. And an area of 58.5 feet squared. So the area is also something we will need. Now the question, it asks us what is the length of the height. So we want to know the height of this. So in order to solve this one, I'm going to go ahead and write my area of a parallelogram formula, which we should know is area equals base times height. I'm given the base, which is 6.5, and I'm given the area, which is 58.5. I'm finding the height. This is what is missing. So I'm going to plug in the information that I have in the correct spot and then look at how to solve it. I'm going to replace the A with 58.5, put my equal sign down, and then 6.5 to replace my B, and I'm going to leave my H right behind it. We know from solving equations that when a number and a variable are touching, that means that you are multiplying. So in order to undo that multiplication, we need to divide. We're going to divide by 6.5. Now, in order to do this, we must remember that when we're setting up long division, 6.5 would go on the outside because that's our horse, and 58.5 would go on the inside. You cannot divide with a decimal on the outside. We absolutely cannot do it. So we need to move this all the way to the end. That skipped over one number, and I have to do the same thing on the inside of my division sign. So I'm going to go and move my decimal point back one space. I would rewrite this as 65 dividing into 585. Now I could go about dividing this to find my answer. When I go through to find my answer, I will be left with H equals, and my answer would be 9. Remember that we need to put this in terms of the measurement, and everything inside the question had to do with feet. So this would be our feet. This one only gets the feet instead of the feet squared because we already had the feet squared given to us as the area. So the height of this parking spot would be 9 feet.